Welcome to Rising Stars, where Miriam Knight, publisher of New Consciousness Review, interviews exciting new voices in the world of progressive and transformational books, films, and ideas, who offer intriguing perspectives on life, the universe, and everything in between. Join us as we celebrate the conscious awakening and explore many expressions of consciousness in action.
Welcome to Rising Stars. I'm Miriam Knight, and our guest today is Shelly Wilson. Shelly is an intuitive medium, Reiki master, and spiritual growth coach whose passion is assisting others on their own spiritual journeys. She has studied with Sonia Choquette, Lisa Williams, James Van Praagh, John Holland, and Tony Stockwell, and she's a certified Karuna Reiki master through the International Center for Reiki Training. She's also a featured columnist and an executive editor for OMTimes magazine, no doubt in her spare time. Shelly is the author of 28 Days to a New You, Connect to the You Within, and Journey into Consciousness. And I am so delighted that she could join us today. Hi, Shelly.
Hello, Miriam. I'm so excited to be here with you today.
Oh, thank you. Shelly, your first book, I think it was your first book, I'm not sure. Your book, Journey into Consciousness, is just a really personal story. And I was wondering, why did you decide to write it?
Well, yes, it was my first book. I will tell you that, but it was actually the third one that was published because I was waiting and waiting and waiting for the right time. I will tell you that I live in Oklahoma. I was raised in the Baptist religion, and my dad's a civil engineer. So those three things, for many people, they say, oh, I understand. That's why, it took a while. So coming out as an intuitive medium, and Miriam, I prefer to call myself intuitive versus the word psychic, even though I recognize psychic means of the soul. I just, had a lot of fear, for lack of a better way of saying it. So I chose to write Journey into Consciousness to share those experiences that made me who I am. The second section of the book, it is from my awakening, my spiritual awakening, which I deemed to be May 1st, 2008. And then the third section is dedicated to providing tips and tools for others on their own journey into consciousness. Now, Miriam, throughout the entire book, I have incorporated my own experiences and provided some messages and tools and insight for those also on this journey, regardless of where they're at, that they can apply to their own lives as well.
Now, Shelly, one of the things that I really love to learn about is how you experienced the flowering of your intuition, because I think that's one of our greatest gifts as human beings.
I absolutely agree, and I got chills all over as soon as you asked and posed that question, Miriam. I will tell you, I always knew things. I was a very sensitive child. I had epilepsy and migraines, and I have essential tremors. And upon reflection, when I did wake up, I recognized that I was channeling lots of energy. And so I began a journey, and it wasn't until 2008 that I would deem that I actually woke up, spiritually speaking. I really had the confidence and could channel those abilities. And I've studied with many wonderful teachers to help develop them. And I'm very clairsentient, which means I'm feeling what I experience, whether I'm reading psychically or mediumistically, and that really helps me to connect with my client.
Did you have a profession before you went into working with clients on an intuitive level?
Yes, my background's business, and we also have a home-based business in addition to working outside of the home, but I've not officially worked outside of the home since 1999. And it was 2008 when I stepped into this work, assisting others on their own journey. It initially began with practicing Reiki, and then I began offering readings, doing private sessions. And now I really love teaching and providing those assistance to others on their journey.
One of the things that seems to characterize this time is this upwelling of desire to be of service to others in a really profound way. And, whatever profession we're in, we are of service to others, to the greater good. But there seems to be this kind of focusing in on opening one's heart and connecting to what you do in the world as a form of service. Is this your understanding or your impression as well?
Absolutely, Miriam. And I will tell you that, we ask those questions. Who am I? Why am I here? What am I supposed to be doing? And those people that are really passionate about life and living, they find that very easy. But there may be people who struggle or search, and in turn, they are exploring and discovering who they are. And the more that we really connect to ourselves, and that's why I wrote the book, Connect to the You Within, listen to what your higher self says, your knowingness, go to that gut instinct, connect with your guides and your angels, and know that they are here to help you on this earth plane journey that we're all on.
There's a term that was coined by a sociologist in just after the turn of the century, called conscious creatives.
Yes.
And this is a term that means many things to many people. What do you mean by consciously creating?
Yes, that's a great term and a great reference. And to me, being awake, being aware, operating on that sixth sense, that intuitive awareness, being mindful, to me, that's what conscious is all about. And the more that we are in this present moment, in the here and now, rather than living in the past or living in the future, the more that we become aware of our energetic emission with our thoughts, our words, our actions, our intentions, how we respond to one another or circumstances. To me, that's how we consciously create.
Consciousness is obviously a term very near and dear to my heart.
Absolutely.
I'm all about the new consciousness. And I'm always looking for examples of consciousness in action. And I think what you are doing in the world is such an example, because people are hurting. They really are reflecting the malaise and the violence of this time. How does your work as an intuitive medium help them?
Well, I definitely, because I am empathic, also known as clairsentient, I can connect to their energy regardless if they're with me or we do it distantly over the phone or Skype, but I feel into their energy. And having my own human life experiences, I can relate to many of what people are challenged with. Of course, not always, but I can have a feeling or an impression that I can relate to. And, Miriam, I think so many people do get caught up in what is happening around us. They look at, what's on the media and how it's portrayed, and we automatically go into that fear mode. And fear isn't a bad thing. That's part of our human expression and our emotions. But the more that we move into that vibration of love and trust and seeing things from that higher soul perspective, the happier we'll feel and the more at peace we'll feel.
It's interesting. I was thinking of raising my own children and how you try to instill fear in them to keep them safe. But at some stage, if you don't give them the opposite outlet for expressing their freedom, then fear takes over.
Yes. There's a balance, and I think we have to have the contrast, but I also think, sometimes if we really look at the worst case scenario of an experience and look at the best case scenario, sometimes it's going to fall just in between. So our humanness tends to want to go to the very worst thing that could happen.
Yes, and we dwell on that, on what might be, instead of living in the now. And
exactly.
And even if it doesn't happen, we have already experienced the negative emotions. We're wonderful inventions. Thank you, God.
Yes.
Now, you call yourself an intuitive medium.
Yes.
There are people who are just intuitives and others who are mediums, and you're an intuitive medium. So what do those terms mean?
Well, to clarify, as I said initially, I have psychic abilities, but I don't much care for the word psychic. So I prefer to call myself an intuitive. I'm tapping into those sixth sense, those intuitive psychic abilities. And then as a medium, I connect with those that have passed to the other side. So more people are becoming familiar with what that is. Obviously, in the media, it is portrayed in a different light many times than what actually happens during a session. But I definitely feel that sometimes we need closure and connection to our loved ones just to know that life does continue, that energy cannot be created or destroyed. It can only be changed.
And the mediumship ability, is that something that has been developing for you over time, or did you have it kind of full blown at the beginning?
No, I feel like I definitely had the abilities, but I was not in my full consciousness that I could do it until a chain of events. And I share all of that in my book, Journey into Consciousness. And I have developed it. It's one of those things that I have to get out of the way and out of my head and really just know that this information that's coming to me, I give what I get as it comes through.
I hear from a lot of intuitives that one of the biggest challenges is learning to trust the information that's coming through. Was that a challenge for you?
Yes. And the thing is we wanted to interpret it for ourselves, and we do have to do that to a degree, but the information is going to come through as thoughts, feelings, impressions, memories, words, and it's a matter for us as the receiver to interpret it, to convey it to the person who then interprets it. And sometimes the images and words are literal, but sometimes it's very symbolic. It would be easy if our loved ones who have passed could just say, this is what I want to say, tell them. But many times they give us those feelings and impressions that we in turn convey to them.
Well, we're coming up to a break, so I don't want to start another subject, but I really want to know about some of the experiences that you've had as an intuitive medium. I think it'll be quite fascinating. We are speaking with the delightful Shelly Wilson. She is the author of 28 Days to a New You, Connect to the You Within, and Journey into Consciousness. Stay with us and we'll be right back.
Free your mind. Expand your soul. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
The name is Bond. James Bond.
No, the name is Joe. The Joe Show. And we are returning back for our 9th season here on OMTimes Radio. So tune in every Wednesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific, on OMTimes.com/mobile. You can take us wherever you go. Yeah!
Host your show on IOM FM, the radio network of OMTimes Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of OMTimes. Hosting a show on IOM FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community. What if business could be fun? What if business is the adventure of living? What are you choosing? Where do you do business that makes it easier, more fun, or more joyful for you? We'd love to see where you do business. Connect with us on Instagram at Joy of Business or Twitter at Joy of Business, and share your pictures with hashtags BusinessDoneWhere and Joy of Business. Let's change the world with business.
Live with medium Lisa Phoenix, Mediumship Messages and Musings, explores mediumship and all things metaphysical. Lisa Phoenix invites you to reach above and beyond your everyday experiences, to explore new dimensions in the spirit world. She will do live readings to connect callers to their loved ones in spirit, shares engaging stories and teachings from her own personal experience, and will have intriguing conversations with other mediums, spiritual teachers, and healers to help you understand the metaphysical world so you can connect to these forces in your day-to-day life. Join your host on this magical and metaphysical journey into the world of spirit every Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time.
Your conscious lifestyle on steroids. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
we are back speaking with Shelly Wilson, the author of 28 Days to a New You, Connect to the You Within, and Journey into Consciousness. Shelly, tell us what your website is.
Yes, my website is shellyrwilson.com, and to spell that, it's SHELLYRWILSON.com.
Great. Now, a medium really connects with people who have passed, and I know that especially people who are grieving for someone close to them have this burden of grief that they find difficult to get through. And I have spoken to so many people who have had readings from mediums that have given them comfort in their grief. Can you tell us some of the transformative sessions, perhaps, that you've had, and the difference that you've seen in people when they get these messages from their loved ones?
Absolutely, and that's, something that many people do experience is a lot of grief, and that grief could last really a long time, and that's absolutely understandable. And what I find, Miriam, through my sessions, and that is one of the main reasons I do mediumship work, is to help those who are here to understand that life does continue. Our loved ones who transition to the other side, they no longer have that physical body, but they're still energy. As we know, energy cannot be created or destroyed. It can only be transformed. So during a session, and to clarify, the information comes through for me as thoughts, feelings, impressions. I may hear a word or see an image or feel something on my physical body, and I convey that to the person. I want to bring through enough evidence so that they know that it is their loved one with them, whether it's a name, a date, information, some kind of description, even how they passed. I want to let them know that this is who I have connecting to them through me. And then providing information. Many times the messages are to let them know that they see what they're doing now, provides them that feeling of comfort. Sometimes it provides closure if there especially was challenges between the relationship when they were still here. But there's so many reasons why people may have a session with a medium wanting to connect to those who have passed. And I should also mention too, Miriam, that many times our loved ones try to get our attention, and this is for anyone, whether they are intuitive or psychic or mediumistic or not. Our loved ones give us signs all the time, whether it's songs on the radio, cloud formations, those birds that come into our awareness, butterflies, dragonflies, those pennies from heaven. Our loved ones, and I should mention too, the flickering lights or the telephone ringing and no one's there and it's just like half a ring. All of that are messages from our loved ones who have passed if we believe them to be as such.
Well, if we just recognize them, so often we go through life with blinkers, anchored in present reality, and we don't trust the signs and messages that we see. So that must be a big hurdle to get over. Really being mindful of what is happening around us. Would you agree?
I would agree. And the thing is those people that choose to utilize their sixth sense, that intuitive awareness, and we all have that ability, but a lot of people are just operating on their five physical senses. And the more that we do heighten that sixth sense, pay attention, practice that present day moment awareness in that mindfulness, it will help us to see the signs. It will help us to see those people coming into our lives and providing us with those opportunities to learn and to grow.
It is so difficult to even if you have been going on the spiritual path for a long time, it's so difficult to make that switch into trusting your intuition, trusting your sixth sense, because you think, oh no, it's just my imagination, it couldn't possibly be real. But all of the literature that is coming through now, all of the people who are awakening now are talking about listening to the universe. The universe wants to connect to you, and that is how you change your life.
Very much so.
Have you had what was your profession before you became a medium? How did it change your life?
Well, first and foremost, I was a wife, am a mother, I'm a businesswoman, and I pursued this fully and wholeheartedly. It was 7 years ago. And so I stepped out of the real world, shall I say, and stepped more into spiritual living, a mindful practice, a conscious practice, and began doing this as work. Even though I don't call it work, it is what I do to assist others and to be of service to spirit in the universe.
What made you decide to do that, to step out like that?
Well, I really existed. Just to put it very, very bluntly, I felt like I was going through the motions of life, as many people do, and just wake up, do what I do, and then come home, go to bed, and start the day anew again. But it was just, very monotonous, and I knew that I needed to stop existing and start living, and that's where the book 28 Days to a New You began. And the whole idea is that we shift our perception and we become present moment and really see everyone and everything from a higher soul perspective.
Now, not everybody is going to become a medium or an intuitive. You can be living from a spiritual perspective in just any kind of profession. What do you think constitutes making that shift wherever you are?
Absolutely, and you're absolutely right, Miriam, that you can be anything, anyone, do anything, and have a spiritual practice, be conscious, be mindful, meditate, be in the moment. These are tools that we can all utilize to enhance our life, to have what I would deem a good life, a happy life, a joyful life. And even though in those joyful moments and these amazing days that we have, we still are faced with challenges. And it's a matter of how we choose to respond to what we're faced with.
Yes, I don't know who it was who said that pain in life is a given, but suffering is optional.
I agree, and it's how we choose to respond. I wrote my book, Journey into Consciousness, to share with the readers more about my own life, my personal experiences that made me who I am, and then providing that information into my own spiritual wake-up, and then provided tips and tools to assist other people on their own journey as well, taking what I learned and applying that to other experiences. And to me, there's no mistakes in life. Everything that we do is a choice that we make. We can stay in the past and beat ourselves up over the choice we made at the time, or we can see those perceived mistakes as opportunities to learn and to grow and choose to learn from them, so we can have that in as wisdom and how we choose to respond in the future.
I think we really tend to beat ourselves up too much. We kind of replay the guilt and the shame that we inherited from our parents, teachers, partners, environment, school buddies. And to fully accept yourself is and love yourself is the first part of the challenge. The second part, I feel, is learning to live for a greater, higher purpose. Not because you have to go save the world, but because you will be more fulfilled. You will get a bigger high from helping others, because that's really what we're here for. We're here to be our best and biggest self. When you connect with the other side, Shelly, have you gotten insights from the other side that you that changed your perception of what you need to do in the world?
Well, I definitely recognize that once we do cross over to the other side, we go through that 360-degree panoramic view of our life from the moment we were born till the moment that we die. And we see and feel every experience as well as the effect that our actions and emotions and responses and words and everything else had on those around us. So we have that full 360-degree review. Now, what I feel is we know that's going to happen, so in this present moment, why don't we consciously choose to respond from a place of love, to let everyone have their experience, to be very mindful knowing that we can have that review every moment, and just be more aware of that energetic emission we're putting out with our thoughts, our words, and our actions.
I've heard from others that life review is fascinating in that you are surrounded by unconditional love, and the only individual being critical of your life is yourself.
Exactly. That's what I've heard as well, Miriam, and I've got chills all over to validate that.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes when people perceive a hell, just to clarify that for a moment, sometimes that's what they experience based on their actions here on life, and they're feeling all of that. But I do believe that the energy is embodied of love, the vibration of love, unconditional love. And I think the more that we do love ourselves now and love our choices and choose consciously, I think that we can all have that experience going forward.
So what little word of advice can you provide in closing?
Definitely be you. Have the courage to express your beliefs, to live by them, to be in this present moment. And the more that you see yourself as that beautiful, unique, miraculous creation that you are, the more everyone else will see it as well, and they'll embrace it and rejoice with you.
Oh, beautiful. Beautiful. Well, Shelly, give us an idea of what you're doing next. Do you have another book in the works?
I definitely have one in my heart and in my head, shall I say, Miriam. I want to write about empowerment. That is my passion, of really helping other people on this journey into consciousness, this journey of life, and letting them know that all of the answers they seek can be found within.
Oh, that's the most important message, really. It's stretching out that hand that helps lift someone else. Beautiful. Well, Shelly, thank you so very much for being with us today. We've been speaking with Shelly Wilson, author of 28 Days to a New You, Connect to the You Within, and Journey into Consciousness. Her website is shellyrwilson.com.
Bringing you the best of the conscious minds in the world. OMTimes Radio, your conscious lifestyle on steroids.
Hello, I'm Miriam Knight of New Consciousness Review, inviting you to my new show where I interview the rising stars of the conscious awakening. We'll explore the many faces of consciousness and action and intriguing perspectives on life, the universe, and everything in between. Join us each Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern on the Rising Stars Show.
Host your show on IOM-FM, the radio network of OMTimes Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of OMTimes. Hosting a show on IOM-FM immediately connects you with our extensive, dedicated community. As difficult as it is to believe, there are places in Africa where human traffickers sell albino children and their body parts for use in magic rituals. Humanity Healing International is actively working in Uganda to change this paradigm. The Albino Rescue Project finds albino children who are at risk and places them in safe schools and environments where they can learn and grow free from fear. To learn more or to sponsor a child, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is.
Come heal yourself. What is healing? Healing is nothing but connecting to your all-knowing higher self that already has solutions to all your problems and is always there to guide you. Through this show, we help you to connect with that you are and help you realize the innate potential you have to heal every aspect of your life. So come heal yourself every Tuesday, 11 a.m. Eastern, with your host, Monica Goyal. Namaste.
Your conscious connection to a more mindful world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
I'm Miriam Knight, and I am so delighted to have with me Kit Cummings. Kit is an author, teacher, and peace activist. He spreads his energy-filled message of power, potential, and positive change to schools, prisons, churches, and corporations through life-changing keynotes, workshops, and seminars. Kit is the founder and president of Power of Peace Project, Inc., a registered nonprofit committed to redirecting at-risk youth, rehabilitating young inmates, and inspiring young people to discover and develop their untapped power and potential. He has spoken to tens of thousands of people all over the world, and he is now reaching out with his new book, Peace Behind the Wire, a nonviolent resolution. Kit, I am really honored to have you with us today.
Thank you so much, Miriam. I'm just honored to be here. Thank you for having me.
Kit, it's wonderful to see what I would call consciousness in action. What inspired the Power of Peace Project?
Well, it was an idea that became an experiment, which led to a program and has evolved into a movement. And I've been trying to keep up with it. And it's taken me to places that I'd never dreamed I would be. A number of years ago in my speaking, whether it be motivational or corporate or training, different places, and in churches, I started saying, I'll go wherever I'm invited. Just invite me and I'll come. And that was my energy. That was my prayer. Just invite me. And I started getting invited. And I was in Philadelphia, and I was speaking at a large nonprofit conference. And after my speech, they put up a picture of Dr. King. And I was just very inspired. I was very present. I was very alert and aware. And I saw his picture, and I just had a thought. And I'd been serving, just doing volunteer work in maximum security prison in Georgia. And I took an idea in there, and it just led to this movement. And it was a peace pledge that some inmates signed during a gang war, during a very intense time in that prison. And it was in honor of Dr. King. And it has morphed into 4 books and gotten me to prisons all over the world. Now I'm taking it into schools because it's just become so powerful.
Well, I hate to say, but certainly the violence in schools has been escalating, and it's clear that some kind of intervention and education of this kind is needed. Mm-hmm. What has been your reception in the schools?
These kids are fascinated. That was a unintended consequence, to tell you the truth. I mean, it worked so well in this prison, and that prison where literally it was the most dangerous, violent prison in the state of Georgia, they won Institution of the Year that year. Now, there was a number of factors that led to that, but a big part of it was this Power Peace Project. And because we got leaders, gang leaders, to come together and start to use their influence for peace because they decided they were tired of the way they were living. It was who wants to live like that? Nobody wants to do hard time. So I started getting invited to prisons where there was gang violence, and I started, carving this thing out and putting it together. Well, I started getting invited to schools. And when I started speaking of this into the schools, kids that would never listen, I had principals that would say, listen, kid, they're not going to listen to you. They're going to probably heckle you. We're sorry. We'll do the best we can, but please don't be offended. And I'm like, nah, don't worry about it. Just give me a mic. And I started telling these stories about these convicts turned peacemakers, and I'm telling you, you could have heard a pin drop. I'm talking assemblies of 2,000 students, and then they're cheering, and they're laughing, they're responding. And it was amazing because they're already watching it on their video games. They're listening to it on their music. They're watching it in their movies. They're speaking about it. There's this hip-hop gangster culture. And so real live gangsters becoming peacemakers spoke to them, and we started creating peace movements in schools, and we turned bullies into peacemakers, and the same thing started happening in the schools.
Wow. Well, I think one of the factors must be that you are actually showing them viable alternatives.
That is true. And this is what my conviction was as I studied Dr. King. I've been following him. I was born the year that he got the Nobel Peace Prize, and I grew up in the South and in Atlanta, and the civil rights movement, the heart is here. And I've been, studying great peace champions. And I just came to believe what I know is true now, that universal laws and principles are what they are. It doesn't matter if you believe in them or not. I mean, somebody tells me they don't believe in gravity. I'll say, okay, well, good luck with that, but it just is what it is. And I think these universal laws and principles, what you put out into the universe, you get back. And how you treat people is the way that you're going to be treated. And if you want respect, give respect. If you want love, give love. If you want somebody to trust you, trust them. And these things work anywhere and everywhere. It's not a white or a black thing. It's not a Christian or Muslim thing. It's not a rich inner city or down in, in the suburbs or down in the hood. It's just a human reality that everybody yearns for peace, and usually violence springs from fear. And so if we can speak to that and find the God in them, you'd be amazed what can be accomplished. And you know that in your work.
My heart is just swelling with gratitude for you.
Oh.
Because this is so needed. I've had a few other people on my show, people like John Hope Bryant, who has been going in around the hoods and inner cities, and teaching much what you're discussing, but also giving them some tools for creating an alternative lifestyle. Because if your neighborhood only offers drug dealing or a sports star or pop star as alternative occupations, what do? How do you, when you talk to these kids, how do you instill in their minds the hope of being able to create for themselves viable alternatives to crime and violence?
A great question. And there are so many people out there, and a lot of whom are known, and a lot that maybe never will be, that are champions of peace and that are teaching nonviolence, maybe just by their lives. And that inspires me. But these kids, the principles that worked in the toughest places, and I just assumed, I said, if it can work in the toughest environments, bringing gangs together, not just in the prisons, but down in the streets, some violent places, and I've seen some amazing things. These kids, if they're given the knowledge and they're given the vision, they will respond. People will typically live up to or down to the way that you see them, because a lot of the young men and women in the schools, or whether it be addiction, crime, violence, abuse, if you look at them in a certain way, they know it. You know it. If someone looks up to you, you rise up. If people look down on you, you're down in their presence. And these kids just want to be seen. They want to be felt, and they want to be heard. And we've got a generation that, this is in their lingo. They're like, I see you. I see you. That means I recognize you. I see your presence. You're there. You're real, and they say, I feel you, man, or you feel me? You feel me? That's basically saying, man, feel what I feel. Connect with me. And that's compassion, right? Mm. Empathy. And then they say, I got you. I got your back. And these are things, if you break them down, I see you, I feel you, I've got you. These kids will climb mountains. These kids will become, if somebody will see them and invest in them. We know that's the key, that there are so many programs that work, but it is getting involved in these kids' lives and seeing them the way they could be, instead of looking down and saying, oh man, it's a lost cause. Why they dress like that? Why they talk like that? Why do they listen to that stuff? And we've got an older generation that doesn't know how to connect with them.
Absolutely, because we've not had exposure across the communities, or across the cultural divides. Mm-hmm. It really speaks very deeply for some, opening for people to be able to come together within communities. Tell me about your book, Peace Behind the Wire. What was the process of writing it? What was your biggest challenge?
Well, I wrote my first book in 2010, 2009, then published in 2010. That was my first effort. I've been speaking for, 25 years in one way or another. And, I love communication. I love, great oratory, And then I started to, blog a little bit, write a little bit, and I decided, man, I got to tell this story. And my story comes from personal loss, and not any better, worse. I'm a normal guy, but I've gone through some things like our listeners have, and I went through a dark time and I lost a lot of stuff, made some bad decisions, some bad choices. And so my first book was Unshackled. And then the subtitle was Diary of a Prodigal Son. And it was my story of the drunken fallen preacher that lost everything and came back through this unlikely cast of characters, these inmates and these young gangsters that gave me my passion back. And so over the last 5 years, and I've been developing this Power Peace Project program, it's a series of 40-day projects. 40 days of peace, 40 days of freedom, 40 days of power. And 40 days is long enough to establish new habits, but it doesn't overwhelm, participants. It's like, give me 40 days. And the last 5 years have taken me to prisons in South Africa, Ukraine, and down into the heart of Mexico, and over into Honduras, and all over the country, into these fascinating places that the world doesn't typically see. And also going into mosques and going into ashrams and going into temples and going into cathedrals and synagogues. Sweat lodge. I've gone wherever I'm invited, and that's taken me into these beautiful cultures and faith traditions that I did not appreciate or honor when I was in this religious box that I was in for a long time. And so once I got out and started experiencing other things, it became this book that had to be written. It was being birthed inside of me. So I began to write, and I released it August the 8th, and 8/8 for a reason. And it's getting very good reviews. It's a fascinating read, but it also tells why the Power of Peace Project is being effective because it is a very it's become a very specific process.
It's just overwhelmingly fascinating, your story. We're just coming up to a break, so I don't want to start a new subject, but tell me what the website is.
powerofpeaceproject.com, or you can get there through teenpeace.net, prisonpeace.com. There's a lot of ways to get to it, but anybody just powerofpeaceproject.com or Google it, and you can find us.
Great. I invite people to go to it because I noticed that you had an internship program on it as well. Mm-hmm. We are speaking with Kit Cummings about Peace Behind the Wire and the Power of Peace Project. Stay with us and we'll be right back.
The best of the holistic, spiritual, and conscious world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM. Join Elliot Jolish, the business therapist, each Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern for the Elliot Jolish Hour, as he interviews business experts on your behalf. And you're invited to email your business questions to questions@ecjgroup.com for answers, live, on air every Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern on the Elliot Jolish Hour. Being a radio host on IOM FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. OMTimes Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single OMTimes endeavor. Host your show with OMTimes Radio Network. OMTimes Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Are you ready to shift your energy, consciousness, and limiting beliefs? Join me, Shefali Burns, every Monday at 5 p.m. Eastern on Shifting with Shefali here on OMTimes Radio. Shift the blocks, limitations, and negative energies that have kept you from experiencing a life filled with joy, peace, love, abundance, and happiness. Are you ready to shift with Shefali? Are you ready to shine your brilliance?
connecting you with the best of the conscious minds in the world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Back with Kit Cummings, author of Peace Behind the Wire and the driving force behind the Power of Peace Project, aka POP. Kit, what was your most fascinating POP adventure as it has taken you around the world?
Oh, wow. Gosh, there's been a number of them. I would say, Honduran prisons were just, I always use the word fascinating because if I keep my ability of wonder and fascination and curiosity, it's amazing what you can see. But Honduras and Ukraine were the last couple of years. But I made a trip to South Africa a few years ago. To really the second time I'd been there. I was there in '95, and then again a couple of years ago, and it was night and day the way it was after Mr. Mandela had just been elected and won the Peace Prize with de Klerk, and then all these years later to go back and see what it had become. That was a fascinating journey. But I was able to get into a big prison down there called Westville, which is a prison built for 7,000 people, and it houses 11,000 inmates. And very intense place. And it was a series of open doors. I didn't have a plan. I didn't have a contact. I didn't have any connections. I talked my way in. And I got to connect with these amazing, they happen to be mainly Zulu inmates. But the amazing part, and that I didn't even expect, is I was down there for the Gandhi Global Peace Summit that they have every 6 years, and global peacemakers from around the world. They come together and they discuss the Ugandan genocide or what's going on in in parts of, back then it was the Egyptian Spring, and just these are heroes of peace. Gandhi's granddaughter, Ela Gandhi, and Dr. Bernard Lafayette, who was Dr. King's right hand when he was assassinated, they lead it. And I just went down there to sit in the back and listen. And so I traveled to South Africa. Well, the word got out that I'd gone to a prison and preached about Kingian and Gandhi and nonviolence principles. And they brought me up and they gave me a microphone, and I got to speak at this conference to these heroes of mine, and it was a magical moment that I couldn't have planned, couldn't have orchestrated. It was just the universe brought together everything I needed to be able to present this message to people that I was just honored to be in front of.
With the news focusing on violence and negativity, it is just so uplifting to hear your story and about things like this conference of peacemakers from around the world. I mean, there is this whole alternative culture of goodness and activism and people trying to help the world that we just don't hear about.
You're right. You're absolutely right. And that needs to change. When we see the things that happen up in your part of the country over the past, couple of weeks.
Indeed.
It makes the news for a few days, and it's horrific, and then the country moves on. And what's the next thing? And it's developed this appetite for drama and an addiction. I think it's an addiction to drama, and it sells. If it bleeds, it leads. And there is a revival, and I say that in the non-religious. I mean, that word's got a lot of baggage attached to it, but there's an awakening, a revival, a new spirit that I believe is starting to spread, that you're not hearing as much as we need to, but I guarantee you it's starting to get out. I'm involved with a project right now that Oprah Winfrey is doing. It's going to be aired for 7 nights in a row, beginning October the 18th. And it's about belief around the world. And it's going to be so inspiring to watch. But it does talk about how Christian, Muslim, Jew, Buddhist, Hindu, humanism, atheism, Native American spiritualism, and just cross-cultural faith communities, believers around the world are doing amazing things that nobody sees. And she's put together this amazing 7-night event that's going to show the world that there really is amazing. People are waking up. And I think that there's a lot of people that have had enough. I mean, light drives out the darkness every single time. And love overcomes hate. every time. We just have to change. We just have to wake people up, give them not just fluffy good news. This is the reason this is compelling. And I think, why we're talking today is this is not just some good news. It's light in darkness. I mean, it is hope in despair. It is peace in crazy, dangerous violence. And that is powerful because light shines brightest in the darkness. And that's what I believe Peace Behind the Wire is all about.
Wow. So is that going to be on the OWN channel?
It is. And Oprah and her team have done an amazing job of trying to find faith leaders and communities all around the country and beyond that would get behind this. And so for several months, there's been conference calls and there's been collaborative efforts and there's going to be watching parties and there's going to be all these cool things. And it will be on the OWN channel. And if you've seen Planet Earth, which is that visually, the Planet Earth series is just, it's like that, but it's about social change and peace around the world. So I'm having Reverend Carolyn Wilkins, who works with the Agape Spiritual Center in Los Angeles. She's going to be one of the guests on my show. I have a Monday night show, 8 p.m. live on Voice America World Talk Radio. But anyway, she's going to be one of the guests this coming week, and we're going to talk a lot about this Oprah Belief series.
That's exciting. She is such a light worker.
She is.
As are you. Tell me what your vision is for pop going forward.
Gosh, I just see it that it's a peace movement for a young generation that's never seen one. Think about it. Our kids, if they're 14, 15, 16, 17, they've never known a time in their lives where there wasn't war. They've never experienced life without a cell phone, video games, social media. They've grown up with the media that you and I were just talking about. I mean, they've never had, in the 60s, there were civil rights, and then there was free love and anti-war and the women's rights and the voters' rights and all these movements. It was an activism time, in our country. And then things started getting kind of weird in the late 70s and very me, and money, the economy in the 80s and 90s was, this new young generation of millennials, being born. And then the technological boom after 2000 has put us where we are today. Everybody is little rock stars on Facebook and Twitter and, Snapchat and especially our kids. They've never thought about it, that they could change the world. I mean, they have the technology. They have the brilliance. They have the energy. Movements are always fueled by young people. They need wisdom and elders over them and mentors and role models, but young people change the world. And this generation is poised to change the world because they can make peace go viral. We couldn't do that in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. We didn't have the technology. We just had to do grassroots. This young generation, they can change it all. And I believe that our generation needs to start believing that and calling them to do it. Power Peace Project it's got teeth. They love it. I mean, our anthem is hope is the new dope. And we get them yelling that at the rallies and they're like, hope is the new dope. I mean, they love that. So, I mean, it's I am the power of peace. And they use social media and their little smartphone videos to create anti-bullying campaigns in their schools. I mean, that's my vision is just a movement that just explodes and becomes bigger than me, and then people, it's Power Peace, and then, oh yeah, who's kid? Oh yeah, it's not there. But Power Peace is this, movement for young people.
What do you think are the qualities that an effective mentor to this younger generation needs to reach through the static?
Man, great question. You're very good at what you do, Miriam. I'm impressed with you. I just wanted to throw it out there. I think people know when you're authentic. I mean, the inmates know that. They've got great antennas. They can smell, BS. They know it when they hear it, see it. So do we. And these kids, they know. They know if you care. They know if you're authentic, if you're for real. You don't have to talk their language. You don't have to start saying, well, yo, what's up, dog? And you're 50. It's kind of goofy. But you can connect with them and they can, I think authenticity, compassion, we've got to transfer our belief. We cannot sell them, talk at them. Many people are doing is telling them what they can't do. You can't go here. You can't say this. You can't watch this. You can't listen to this. You can't hang out with that. You can't put this in your body. And so their whole world with with older generation is, don't tell me what I can't do. I'm not trying to hear you anymore. And so it becomes wah, wah, wah. And we've got to start telling them what they can do, what they will do, what they could do and be. And they will listen, because we're all built with something inside that wants to do something great. We need to. So that's what I think a mentor does.
Do you think that pop will continue in its present form, or do you think it'll morph?
It's got to morph. I mean, movements morph. I thought I was just going to go be helping, some convicts in this one prison. And then others started calling. And then I thought it was just going to be a prison peace movement, which it is. And then the school started calling. And then I thought it was going to be just a kids peace movement, just high school. And then all of a sudden middle schoolers start calling, and it keeps on going. Now it's got to go to Baltimore. Went to Ferguson, went right in the middle of Ferguson.
Wow.
Baltimore is experiencing this murder rate that we got to go there. And then who knows where's next? I'm going back to Ukraine in the spring. And, I think it's going to keep morphing. I just try to keep up.
Kit Cummings, I am just so overwhelmingly impressed with your vision and your passion and the way you've been able to translate that into a movement that is really making change on the ground. So, again, what are the websites that people should go to?
powerofpeaceproject.com or Teen Peace. Just think of teenage peacemakers. So teenpeace.net. Or if you remember, Hope is the New Dope. Just go to hopeisthenewdope.com and go get Peace Behind the Wire.
Oh, go get Peace Behind the Wire, Kit's book. Kit Cummings, thank you so much for being with us.
Oh, thank you. You're awesome.
And do join us next week. And in the meantime, visit my website, New Consciousness Review, at ncreview.com. I'm Miriam Knight, wishing you love and light and everything good in your life. Goodbye.